Welcome back, guys. Today we are on Crochet 103, which means that we're officially getting into granny square time. Now, if you are anywhere near the world of crochet, you definitely know what a granny square is. It is all over the place. It is such a popular, easy little crochet thing to do. And there are tons and tons and tons of variations of granny squares. So today we're going to start with the most basic version of a granny square, usually the one that you'd see everywhere. And we can build our way up from there, and you guys can learn some other super complex and other fun granny square patterns when you're ready. But today we're starting at the basics. In the last video, we covered double crochets. That's what we're going to be using in today's video to create granny squares. If you've missed out on how to create a double crochet and you want maybe a more in-depth version of it, check out the Crochet 102 video. Otherwise, we will be going over it today as well. It just won't be as in much detail as the previous video. The other thing that you do need for a granny square is a magic ring, and that's something that we're going to be going over today as well. So if you've never done a magic ring, do not worry, we're going to go over it pretty in depth in today's video. Also, do not be turned off by the idea of doing a magic ring. I know that a lot of people get super nervous when you hear the words magic ring and you think that it's something that's like magical. It's not. It's really simple. It's really easy. I promise you guys, magic rings are so helpful, but I will also show you just like the chain circle method because I know that that can be a little bit easier for people. So anyways, once we get our magic rings out of the way, we're going to go into how to make a single color granny square. So we're just going to use one color of yarn, but I will show you how to also change a color in the last row of my granny square so that you can choose which one you want to do. There is a bit of a different technique when you're changing a color and when you're keeping the same color, which is why I want to show you how to do both. As always, for materials, you're going to need your trusty dusty 5.5mm hook, and you're going to need your brightly colored acrylic yarn, which is this cake over here. I'm still going to be using the same color, guys, surprise. So I'm gonna meet you guys back at my table with my yarn and my hook, and we can get started on our granny squares. All right, we are at the table with our 5.5mm hook and our brightly colored yarn. Now, the first thing that you're going to need to know when it comes to crocheting a granny square is how to crochet in the round. What does that mean? Well, when we're looking at a project like our single crochet square here that we did a couple of videos ago, you remember that we went up and down kind of all of these lines and we just crocheted in a line. We did a row. That's how a lot of projects are built up. However, if you're doing something like a granny square that I have here, for example, you're going around and around and around to build it up. You're not just crocheting, one row and then you build on it and you build another row and then you turn and you build another row. No, with a granny square specifically, you are crocheting in the round. And what that means is you literally crochet in rounds instead of rows. So in order to crochet in the round, you need a circle that you're going to start putting your crochet stitches into. So we're just going to start with making a magic circle. If you decide that you don't want to do a magic circle, it's too tricky, I'll show you another way to do it. You're going to leave quite a bit of the tail end, and we're going to hold it here. So I usually just use my thumb at my palm to hold it down so it doesn't move anywhere. And we're going to wrap it around my first two fingers, and then we're going to bring it back around and we're going to put it in a cross shape, and then I'm going to hold it down with this finger. Okay, I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to go into the very first line of the yarn that we put in. So the one, you've got this one that's overlapping it, we're going to go under this second one. Okay, we're going to go under this, just the second one, and then we're going to pull up, okay, over the second line, the second part of the cross, and we're going to basically, with our hook, pull this yarn under this, under the first line of the yarn, and then we are going to twist as we're coming up. So you have a loop like that you've made on your hook, because so again, this is what it looks like right when you're pulling it out, and you've got that, you've basically just pulled out this part with your hook, and to bring your hook back up into a nice position, you're going to keep that yarn on your hook and you're going to wrap it, and you just create this little twist in your yarn, okay? And then you're going to, you can still keep a hold of this piece of the yarn. You're going to yarn over with the working yarn, so that's the yarn that's still trailing over there. You're going to yarn over and you're going to pull it through the loop that's on your hook, and you've just created a magic circle, okay? And then to get your magic circle, you're just going to hold on to this part that you just crocheted, that knot that you just pull through. You want to hold on to that because that's what keeps your magic circle together. And just take your fingers out, and there's your circle, right? It's probably going to be small right after you make it, so you can just pull your circle to make it bigger. Just be careful not to pull all of the yarn out, because again, you're basically pulling from the tail end of your yarn to make this circle bigger, okay? You don't want to make it too big again because it's a little harder to work in the bigger that it is. So I'm going to make it a little tighter because I like to keep my magic circles pretty small so I can work into them a lot easier, and I can control basically how much space I'm working into. So I'm just going to hold this knot and pull the tail end of my yarn, and it's going to make it smaller. And you're ready to go. There's your magic circle. When you're crocheting in your magic circle, like I said, there's going to be a few pieces of yarn that are like interweaving over here. You're just going to crochet over them as we go in and crochet. All right, let's get into the granny square that we are all here for. So I'm going to show you a few rows of the granny square in the same color first, and then after we're done with about 3 rounds, I'm gonna come back and then put in another color so you can learn how to change colors in your granny square. All right, so we've got your magic circle that you've worked so hard on, and we are going to chain 3. As a reminder, a chain is just a yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. Okay, so we're going to chain 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we've got 3 chains on our hook, and we are going to do a double crochet. A double crochet is a yarn over, insert into the stitch. Now here we don't have a stitch, so it's going to be a little tricky, guys, but I promise a magic circle is it's so fun. Okay, so we're just going to insert it under this yarn basically, okay? So we're just going to put it into the circle itself, okay? And we're going to, so these pieces of yarn basically act as your stitch, but you're literally just going under them, okay? And we're going to yarn over and, well, pull through this imaginary stitch, and then you're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops on your hook, and you're going to again yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook, and that's how you make a double crochet, okay? Now, the really cool thing with a magic circle is you could make a stitch anywhere on the circle, okay? So say I had made this stitch a lot further, and you can literally just pull your stitch closer to your previous one because it's a circle. So it's awesome, okay? And a little tip for when you're working in a magic circle, you can just hold tight, like pull tight on your magic circle as you're crocheting. So usually it's almost like I hold at the base of the circle and I pull it pretty tight so that when I'm working in it, I have like tight yarn, like taut yarn that I can work into so that it isn't really moving anywhere and becoming a little harder to work in. That's also why I keep my magic circles pretty small, because I can always add length as I go. So, you know, as I'm crocheting, if I'm like, oh, the circle's too small, I can just pull on the end and make it bigger. But having a pretty small circle just makes it so much easier to pull and to keep tension and to just work into a circle and not a stitch, right? We're going to do 1 more double crochet, okay? So yarn over insert into the circle, and again you can pull a little tight so it doesn't go anywhere, yarn over, pull through the circle, yarn over, wow, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. Okay, and that is the first part of making a granny square. Okay, now we did a chain of 3 and then we did 2 double crochets. When we move on to the next part, we're just going to do 3 double crochets. The reason why we're only doing 2 double crochets here is because your chain of 3 is the same height as your double crochet. So it basically acts as a replacement for a double crochet. If we didn't put these chains and we just started double crocheting right into the magic circle, that first stitch is going to be a lot shorter because it started from the ground up here, right? Whereas here, you know, we chained up here and then we started a stitch, so we're starting at a tall point, right? If we were to start a stitch from down here, your stitch is basically getting pulled all the way down here, and it would be really short compared to these two. And when you're coming back around, as you'll see, it won't really have the same height, okay? So that's why whenever you're starting a new row in a granny square, it always starts with a chain of 3. You're never starting with a double crochet in a new round. So we did our first part of the granny square, and as you can see, so this part that you've just made is basically one of these pieces, okay? So one of these pieces is either 3 double crochets or a chain 3 and 2 double crochets. And each of these pieces is what's going to make a granny square. A granny square is literally the repetition of this one little piece over and over and over and over again, okay? So for you to learn how to join them all though, now that we've done our chain of 3 and 2 double crochets, we are going to chain 3. So we're going to do yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. That's 3 chains. Now we're going to do 3 more double crochets into the magic circle. So we're going to yarn over, insert the hook into the circle. And this can be a little tricky because you're going at it from a distance. You can grab the stitch that you made over here and your magic circle to create, again, a bit more space for you to work in, and making sure that your circle isn't going anywhere while you're trying to crochet into it, okay? You're yarning over and you're pulling through the circle. So you've got 3 loops, and we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the remaining 2 loops. And that is your next double crochet. And we're going to do 2 more double crochets, all right? So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through just 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through all the loops. And once more, we're going to yarn over, insert into the circle, yarn over, pull through the circle, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through all of the loops. And those are your 3 double crochets. You might already start to see it come together, but if you just grab like your last stitch, you can just pull it, okay? And you can see how it's forming the corner. And so those 3 chains that we did over here basically forms the corner of your granny square, and that's where your more stitches are going to go, and it's going to keep pulling and creating the square pattern basically. All right, we're going to do the next one. So we basically have to do 4 parts of these in order to make the starting point of the first round of your granny square. So we're going to once again chain 3. Okay, so yarn over, pull through. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to, again, do 3 double crochets into the circle. So yarn over, insert into your circle, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through all the loops. And again, that's our second double crochet. and our third one. All right. And again, I'm just going to push the stitches over just so we can keep maintaining the nice, neat little look. And then because we're almost done, we only have one more that we need to put in. I'm going to tighten my circle a little bit because again, I like to keep it pretty small. So I'm just going to take the tail end of the yarn, so just this part over here, and I'm going to pull. Okay. And I just need about that much space to work in, so I'm just going to keep that much space available for me to work in. And again, we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do 3 more double crochets. So I'm going to yarn over, insert into the circle, pull through 2 loops, pull through the rest of them. And you can see I'm literally just working over this piece of yarn that's in there. So you're just holding it close to your circle, and you're just continuing to work over it. So we're putting in our second double crochet now, and then our third and final double crochet of the round. Okay. And you can see how we've got that square shape going on now, right? And so I'm just going to chain 3 again, because again, we need one more corner in order to make this a nice little square. And now we're going to slip stitch, okay? Now slip stitch is something that I haven't gone over before. So a slip stitch is you're basically moving into another stitch without adding to your stitch count. Basically, you're just slip stitching into it. So the way that you would slip stitch is you're going to find the top of that last chain that we made over here. So remember, we started off with a chain of 3, and then we started in with our double crochet. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look for the top and that last chain that we made. Okay, this is usually the stitch that I go into. All right, so it's this top chain here. We're going to go into basically I'm always like what, oh, there it is. All right, there we go. Oh, we did it. You're just gonna go into the third chain that you made when you started this round, and you're going to yarn over, pull through that chain, and then you're just going to take this first loop that you have here, and you're going to pull it through the second loop here. So you can, again, I love holding on to loops and stuff, so I just hold on to the second loop so that I can move this first one into it, basically. So you just pull down, let the hook do its job, and you just pull this loop in through that one. And that's a slip stitch. Okay, so again, we didn't really add a new stitch into it. We just moved and we kind of like joined one stitch to the next. Okay, and that is your first round of your granny square. Now you're probably looking at this going like, yo, this doesn't look anything like the center of a granny square. You're lying. This is the fun of a magic circle. That's why it's magic, guys. So if you flip your work over, you're going to see this tail end of the yarn, right, that we were crocheting over. So it's really important that you crochet over this the whole time, because if you don't, you're not going to have this. Your magic circle isn't going to work, okay? Which is why I said when you made your magic circle, don't move any of the other pieces of yarn while you're crocheting. Just keep it all in the same place. Yarn, like crochet over all of those pieces of yarn. So we're going to take this this tail, we're going to hold our stitches nice and tight, and you literally just pull the tail end of the yarn, okay? And it tightens. It literally just tightens, okay? I usually do it from the back. I just wanted to show you, but you can literally, if you hold on to this tail end from the back, okay, and you pull just like that. Like I just hold my my crocheted piece like this, and I just pull, and it pulls all of your stitches in, and you get a nice little square. Look at that, it's so cute. Oh, I actually love granny squares. I love watching them work up. So there you have it. That is your first round of a granny square. Okay, so this is basically your foundation round here, and you can see that now you have these 4 corners, and that's what you're going to put more stitches into to create that feeling of a granny square growing bigger. Okay, all right guys, sorry for the change in quality, but I just realized that I forgot to show you the alternate way to make your granny squares without having to do a magic circle. So I'm just coming back to show you that. The way that you do it is basically creating a circle of chains, so you can work into it instead of working into a magic circle. We're going to do a slip knot, which again is make a loop, make a pretzel, oh lord, and the yarn that's running under, you're going to pick that piece of yarn up, put your hook through it, and pull on both ends. And that's how you make your slip knot. I kind of low-key felt like an air hostess right then, trying to like demo the seatbelt safety or something. Anyways, so what you're going to do now is you're going to chain 4. So we're just going to yarn over and pull through the loop, and that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now that you have 4, we're basically going to go back over into the first chain that we made, which is right next to the slip knot, and we're going to slip stitch into this chain. Insert your hook into that first chain that you made, so the one right by the slip knot, we're going to go into that chain, and we're going to yarn over, and we're going to pull through just that first chain. Okay, so pretty similar to a single crochet up till now. And once we're here, we're going to use the exact same loop that's on our hook, and we're going to pull it through the second loop here. So I like to hold my second loop down so it's stationary, and then you literally just continue pulling this loop through the second loop that's on your hook. And that's how you would do a slip stitch. And whenever you do a slip stitch, you usually end off by chaining 1. And that's just because it's kind of awkward to start anything right after doing a slip stitch because it's very tight. So you usually chain 1. So we're going to yarn over and pull through that loop, and then you're good. And this circle is what you're going to work into as opposed to a magic circle. So you will see that the circle that you might think of, or the gap that you might think of, is here, but it's not. That's where we just made our last stitch. So it's going to open up, and that's not where you want to be putting your hook in and doing your stitches. You're actually going to look for the circle that that your chains actually made. So if you might have to like tease it apart a little bit, but basically you're just going to like do a little shimmy shimmy and you should see that there's like a smaller gap in there, but that's actually what your circle is. So you can, if you just put your hook in and you like make a little space, you just like push it down a little bit, you should be able to see your circle nice and easy now. Okay, so if you wanted to start your granny square, you would, instead of chaining 3, we're just going to chain 2 because we already did 1 chain here. So if you do the normal chain 3, it's just going to end up looking too tall. So we already chained 1 when we ended our slip stitch. So we're just going to add 2 more chains here, and then we're going to start our double crochets in there. Okay, so yarn over, insert into the circle, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, and there you see the circle really nice and easy now. And then you do 1 more double crochet. Okay, and you'd be ready to do the 3 chains. So you do 1, 2, 3, and we do our next cluster of double crochets. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and then you can still like crochet over this basically the same way that you do with a magic circle. All right, and then we're going to chain another 3, 1, 2, 3, put in our next cluster of, double crochets. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to put in our 3 chains and put in our last cluster of double crochets. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and you're going into that the last chain that you made basically here. There we go, yarn over, and that's your slip stitch. All right, and then you could just continue your crochet, and there you go. That's how you do it. It's just when you have a magic circle, you're basically able to pull this tight, right? Because you're able to control this center piece, so you can pull it tight and then you won't have this hole in the middle. Whereas if you're doing a chain 4 circle, you are going to have that hole in the middle. There's nothing you can do about that. You can't make that smaller. So that's the only reason why people like using magic circles. If you're fine with this and you're okay with that, that's perfectly fine. This is a good way to start learning how to do it. And then as you get more comfortable, I would definitely suggest learning how to do a magic circle, even if it takes you a little bit of time, because it's so much easier in my opinion, and I think it just gives you a really nice, neat finish. We're gonna do the next round, and we're going to do it in the same colors. What you're going to do is chain 3 again. So we just slip stitched. We're going to chain 3 again. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. And we are now going to go into the closest one of these chain 3 spaces. Okay, that's what they're called. So when you're reading a pattern for a granny square, you're going to see something that'll go like, put your hook into the chain 3 space. This is that space that they're talking about. So it's basically the space that's created in your work from you putting in those 3 chains in between your 3 double crochets. And for a granny square, when you're crocheting, you're not actually working into the stitch or the chain itself. You're actually just working into the spaces between them. So the closest one to us, going anti-clockwise, we're not crocheting backwards. So we're going to go into this space, which is the closest chain 3 space. And you're going to start double crocheting in there. Similar to how we did it for the magic circle, you're literally going into the space. So we're not going into the chain or into a stitch. We're literally putting our hook right through the space, okay? So you can see that this is the space. It's literally going into the chain 3 space that was left. And that's where we're going to be crocheting, okay? So we're going to yarn over, we're going to insert into that space. Again, we're not putting it into a stitch, we're literally just putting it into the space, and we're going to do our double crochet there. Okay, there we go. And we're going to do 2 more. So again, we're going to start with 3 double crochets into the corner. So that's 2, and that's 3. Now, the way that a granny square works is you're putting more stitches into the corners of your work so that you can create more corners for you to work in. So every single time that you hit a corner on your granny square, you're going to make another corner. So we just put our stitches into one of the four corners of the first row that we made, right? So we're going to have to make another corner so that we can continue to work in it. And the way that you make a corner in a granny square is you do your chain 3 space. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and you're going to put in 3 more double crochets into the same space, okay? And that's basically going to create the exact replica of this that we just put 3 double crochets into, right? So we're going to do it into the same space, okay? So again, we're crocheting into the space. We're not crocheting into a stitch. And how that works is you can see how it literally, you just crochet around the chain that you've made. It's almost like you're crocheting around like a rope or something. It just gives you a nice way to get really nice, rounded, cute little stitches, and you don't actually have to go into a stitch at all. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put in 3 more double crochets again into the same space. So you can see how we just added that one in there. And again, you're going into the space itself, okay? And you're putting, that's your second one, and then 1 more. If you find that you're like running out of space to put your stitches into, you can literally just move your stitches to the side, because again, these double crochets that you're making aren't going into a stitch, so they're not stationary. You can move them and you can pull them if you need. And so you can see that we've just freed up a little bit of space. So we're going to go in and put our stitch in there. And that's your 3rd double crochet, okay? So you just put in 6 double crochets in this one space, all right? So you put in 3 double crochets, you chained 3, and then you put in 3 more double crochets. You can see how it creates a replica, right? So here's another corner. So now when you go in for your next round of stitches, that corner is where you're going to do exactly the same thing, okay? In order to create space for you to continue crocheting and to put stitches, basically as it keeps getting bigger, you're going to need to put more stitches than just the 4, right? Because it's going to be bigger. So to give us space to do that, we're going to chain 1, okay? So we just finished our 3 double crochets. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to start in the next corner, okay? So again, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to put in 3 double crochets. Just going to move them over to the side so it's on a nice corner. And then again, because we're crocheting into a corner, we're going to chain 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and we're going to put in 3 more double crochets into the same space. Now that we've finished crocheting into the corner, we need to jump into the next corner. Again, we need to create some space between these 2. So we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to put in another 6 double crochets in here with 3 chains in between them. And again, we have to jump over into this next corner. So we're going to chain 1, and we're going to put in, we're doing the exact same thing. So we're going to put in 3 double crochets. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, because we're in the corner, we need to make a corner. And now you'll see that we're coming up, this is where we started, right? We put in our chain of 3. So here we're only going to do 2 double crochets, because again, this chain acts as a double crochet for us. So we don't need to do 3 of them here. So we're just going to do 1, and we're going to do 2. All right. And we're going to do our fun little slip stitch. So we're just going to get our hook into this slip stitch, which again is such a lovely task. It gets easier. And then again, you're going to slip stitch so that you insert your your hook into the chain, you yarn over, pull through, hold that second loop, and then just pull the first loop through your second loop. And that's how you slip stitch. And now you're going to see that it looks a lot more like these granny squares that you keep hearing about. And again, as you keep working in them, it's going to actually take the shape that you want of a granny square. And you can see how, again, you've got your 4 corners now, okay, which was what we started off our little stitches in. You've got your 4 corners, but you've also got these 4 spaces in the middle. So that's going to give you more room to continue growing your granny square around instead of just doing it in the corners. Because if you only went corner to corner to corner to corner, at some point it's going to start folding in on itself because it's not getting any bigger, right? Like you're doing the same number of stitches, so it'll keep getting smaller. So having these spaces in between is what helps keep your granny square growing larger and larger and larger, okay? So there's a bit of a slight difference of what you do in the corners and what you do in the center. And that's what we're going to go over now. We just slip stitched, and again, you're going to chain 3, okay? So 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to, as I said before, you're going to go into the closest chain space that you have. Now that we've just crocheted up here, it's actually this space right here that's the closest. So we don't have to jump over here. We can just go straight into this space. So now that we're going into this space, our chain of 3 is actually going to act as our first double crochet. So you're going to put in 2 double crochets into this space because we're acting like this is our first one. Okay, so we've just did our chain of 3. We're going to add 2 more double crochets into this space, and it's that chain space that we've made. Okay, so that was that chain 1 space that you made as you moved through these centers, right? Like remember, we went into the corner, we made 3 double crochets, chain 3 double crochets, we chained 1, and then we did the exact same thing in the corners. Now this 1 chain space is what we're making these bunch of stitches into. Because it was one of these in the middle, we don't need to create a corner here, right? Because this is the middle basically of our square. So we're not going to chain 3, we're just going to chain 1. Okay? And we're going to go to our next space, which is here, and we're going to put in 3 double crochets. Because we're now at a corner, we have to make a corner so we can continue to work in this. So we're going to do the exact same things that we did in the previous round. We're going to chain 3, which is 1, 2, 3, and we're going to put in 3 more double crochets into the same space to make a corner. Now, the next space that we're jumping to is a chain 1 space, which was again the middle of these corners. So we can chain 1, and we're going to put 3 double crochets in this space. This is not a corner, so we don't need to add any more. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to jump to the next space, which is a corner. So we're going to do what we do for every single corner on a granny square. 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 more double crochets. That's our corner done. We want to jump to the next space, so we're just going to chain 1, and we're going to put in our 3 double crochets in here. we're jumping into the next space. This is a corner, so we need to make another corner. We got to jump to the next space, so we're going to chain 1, put in 3 double crochets into our next space. We got to jump to the next space, so we're going to chain 1. This is a corner, so and we're done. You can see that that's where we started. So you can see now a little better how that chain 3 acts as our double crochet. It literally looks the exact same as any of these other stitches. And we are going to, again, slip stitch into the chain here. And you're going to slip stitch, which is you insert your hook into your chain, yarn over, pull through the chain, hold that second loop, pull your first loop, that second loop, and tighten. Okay, so once you get to round 3, all of the rounds look pretty much the same. So now once we go into our next row and we change colors, you're basically going to be doing the exact same thing that you did in the 3rd round. Okay, so let's learn how to change colors. So I've got my color change yarn over here. We just slip stitched, right? What I'm going to do to change a color is I am going to cast off, really, okay? And a cast off in a round, when you're working in rounds, is you would slip stitch and then you chain 1. So we're going to yarn over, pull through, okay? And you just pull that chain, and it's the same thing as casting off for any other project. You chain 1, cut your yarn, pull the tail, and that creates a nice little knot. Okay, grab your new color, you choose a space. I usually start off like in one of the middle spaces. So I'm just gonna start off here so that I can cover where I just slip stitched. So I'm just going to put my hook through the space, just like we would if we were doing a stitch. I'm gonna put it through the space. I'm gonna grab my new yarn, okay? I'm gonna leave a bit on the tail end, and I'm gonna wrap it around my hook, okay? I'm going to pull it through. What I do is I usually from the back, I grip the tail end, okay? So I hold it with my finger on the side, like down here at the back, and I wrap the working end around my finger. And then again, I just use like my ring finger to hold that yarn down so it isn't going anywhere. And you just yarn over and pull through. And then I just crochet over these pieces of yarn. So I would take this end of the white yarn that I just added to the square, and I'm going to take this yellow piece of yarn that we just cut off. So you just hold them against your stitches, okay, over here. And I'm going to chain 3, so that's 1, 2, and 3. Both of these pieces of yarn, okay, I'm going to hold them here. And I'm going to put in my first double crochet, and I'm going to make sure that it goes over this yarn, well, as much as I can here. But when I'm pulling, so I'm yarning over, right, and I'm doing my double crochet, okay, and you can see how I basically included these 2 pieces of the yarn in my stitch, okay? That's how we're going to crochet over the tail ends, so that it's just a little easier at the end, okay? So again, because we already chained, we only have to put in 2 double crochets here. So I'm just gonna do 1 more double crochet, okay? And because we're just jumping to the next space, I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to start my next double crochets in here. And again, I'm just going to carry over that yarn so I can again just try to crochet over some of the ends. And I'm just going to do my first double crochet. And so there you can see how, again, I've carried it over through the back and it's literally gone under the stitch. Okay, so this is it from the back. So this is the back of our yarn, right? Or the back of our piece, or what we would call the wrong side of our piece. And if you flip it over, which is the right side, you can see how you can't actually see those pieces of yarn at the back, right? Because they're hidden and we're crocheting over it. Okay, so again, we just did one, we're going to do 2 more, and I'm going to continue to crochet over these pieces. So hopefully just so you can see that a little clearer, I'm literally just wrapping the yarn around it. Okay, see, there you go. And our last double crochet, and again chain 1. We're getting into the space, so I'm gonna leave these now because I don't really want them on the space. Because it's a corner, we're gonna put in our 3 double crochets, chain 3, and we're gonna put in 3 more double crochets. And we want to skip to the next space, so we're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip over to the next space here. We want to jump to the next space, so we're going to chain 1, jump into the next space. And we want to jump to the next space, so we're going to chain 1. We want to create a corner because we are in the corner. We're jumping to the next corner, so I'm just going to chain 1 and then jump into the next corner. So I'm gonna crochet my next 3 double crochets. We're jumping into the next space, so again, I'm just gonna chain 1, put in my 3 double crochets. And we're jumping into the next space, so chain 1. Because we're in a corner, we're going to want to make another corner. And we want to jump into the next space. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to put in 3 more double crochets. Again, we want to jump into the next space, so we're going to chain 1, put in our 3 double crochets into that next space. We want to jump into the next space, so chain 1, and we're in a corner. And as you can see, we're back to where we started. So we are going to slip stitch into that chain. You're gonna yarn over, pull through your chain. Ooh, that is a tight chain, okay. And then you're gonna pull your first loop through your second loop, and you're gonna tighten. And there you go. That is quite literally how you would just keep going. As you keep going, you can see how when we just did that last round, you can see how we added more of these center blobs, basically, right? So as you keep going, you're gonna see that you're going to be doing more and more of these centers. So when we go into the next round, you'll see that, you know, okay, we're doing a corner here, and then we've got 1, 2, and 3 of these little center portions that we're doing before we get to the next corner. And again, that's how it's just going to keep growing, and it's going to keep getting larger and larger and larger, right? As part of the cardigan that we're making, do not go past 4 rounds. If you go any bigger than this, you're going to have a square that isn't going to match these dimensions, which just means it's going to be really hard to join them and to create a cohesive cardigan. So you can just follow exactly what I did in this video and then cast off. So again, we just slip stitched. We're going to chain 1, pull through. We're gonna cut this bad boy off. There you go. Granny square done. Congratulations, you've just added another super fun crochet stitch to your repertoire. I know it's technically the same stitch that you learned last video, but you can now do a different version of it, which makes it a completely different stitch. That's how crochet works. It's so exciting to know how to do a granny square, because for some reason, it just feels like such a crocheter thing to do. When you can do a granny square, I feel like you truly feel like you've been crocheting for like 300 years, and you're like, yes, guys, I am wise, and I am smart, and I am a crocheter. Obviously, one of the most popular things you can make with a granny square is a blanket. And a lot of people will do, like, you can do different styles of granny squares, like you can do different patterns of granny squares, and there are so many online. Like, there are so many online for you to look at. You know, check out some YouTube tutorials, check out some patterns if you can read patterns. Like, you can always do them to like the exact same size, because then you could just put them all together and you know they're going to be the perfect size. So it's amazing. Or people will literally just make one mega granny square. Like, you just keep adding onto it. I also saw this really cool like granny square cardigan on TikTok, I think, which I was like, yo, wait, this is bonkers. But it was like, it's just 4 granny squares, like 4 massive granny squares, and it's like the front panel, the back panel, and then the 2 sleeves, and that's just 1 granny square each, and you just join them. And I was like, you know, in my head it makes sense, and I just never thought of it. But there are all these super fun creative ways that you can use granny squares to make things that might actually need like a big long pattern. You can also do stuff like pouches or bags. Like, I've done this where I've just done 4 like normal sized granny squares, and you literally just line them up almost like triangles, and you just make a little pouch that like closes, and it's so cute. But there are all these really easy ways that you can use granny squares for projects, and again, you can literally just like look it up. So check it out, the granny world, that sounds awful. The granny square world. The granny square world is yours to peruse, to explore, to get lost in. All right, let's get this video wrapped up. In terms of your assignments for this week, you're going to do 5 more granny squares. So if you did the granny square with me in the video, you're only gonna have to do 5 more. You're gonna need 6 granny squares in total for your cardigan. So just make sure that your granny square fits the dimensions of the others. Feel free to experiment, put in some different colors, try a single color granny square, try different colors for every row, try alternating, whatever you want to do what your heart desires. And it's honestly a great way, like if you have a color scheme that you're thinking of for this cardigan, you can try to incorporate it into the granny squares here. So that's a nice way to kind of link colors throughout your cardigan as well, because the way that we're going to do it is you're going to have different squares, and all of these squares are going to be put together, right, to make the cardigan. So if you're thinking, all right, I want to use these, you know, 4 colors of yarn and I want them to be spread out through my cardigan, having these blocks of colors might not always look the best or most cohesive, but a granny square can really melt those colors together. And that's it for today. Don't forget to tune in to next week's video. We're going to be going over slip stitching as a stitch, and we're going to talk about back loop only crocheting so that we can get a ribbed effect, which a lot of times can be really desirable for, you know, like scarves or toques or whatever projects that you're doing that you want a bit more of a knit feel as opposed to a crochet feel to it. So we're going to be going over that, and again, as always, you're just going to need your 5.5mm hook and your brightly colored yarn. So we're going to use the same thing over and over again. So yippee! Alright, well, thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I hope to see you next week. See ya!